So the separation method used in this experiment is simple distillation. So I'm going to show you how to set up the simple distillation apparatus. It's always a good idea to set up the glassware before you get any of the organic chemicals involved, because as soon as you get the organic chemicals involved, you're introducing more hazards, flammability, mycotoxic, and so on and so forth. So it's better off if you just try this out with clean and dry glassware first, make sure you're happy with the setup, and then you can move much more quickly when it gets to the stage of having the chemicals involved. So we're going to do this separation in a pear-shaped flask, which looks like this, and I'm going to add to that pear-shaped flask something called some anti-bumping granules. Now these anti-bumping granules are just very tiny bits of ground up glassware, and those anti-bumping granules just provide little surfaces for bubbles to form. So it allows small bubbles to form when this boiling starts to happen, which means that the boiling is nice and smooth rather than forming a big bubble which can then bump across, and that destroys the separation altogether. So just some little bits of ground glass, and it's a good trick to put those in first before you pour anything liquid around the sides here, because if any liquid sticks to the joint up here, they get stuck to it and then the joints don't go together properly. So I'm just going to clamp that vertically using a clamp and stand as normal. Notice that I've got this over the stand so that it's nice and stable, whereas something at this side is very easy to knock over and something at this side is easy to knock over. This is really stable, so it points the same way as the base of the clamp. I'm going to put into that an adapter. This glassware is called Quick Fit, and it's specially designed for these examples of glassware to just fit together nice and quickly, just like a little puzzle. So put that onto there, and I could put a joint clip on there as well, just to hold it nice and securely in place. So that's now nice and secure. I'd like to be able to measure the temperature of the distillate. And so in order to measure the temperature, I'm going to use a thermometer. I've put it into this thermometer holder and adjusted that so that the bulb of the thermometer, in fact that looks just a little bit too low, so I'm just going to release the pressure, just take that clip off a little slightly, move it up ever so slightly and then twist it back to secure it, just making sure it's at that junction there so that I can measure the temperature of any distillate coming off. Now imagine that this starts to boil and releases gas, and the gas will expand and fill all of the space available. So the idea is that the gas fills all the space available, including coming down this little exit here to the adapter and into this tube here, which is called a leaded condenser. So if I then clamp that condenser carefully here, like so, and if I cool this condenser down, then that will allow the vapour to condense, and because of the angle of this, it will condense and it drips down the side here and out here. So we need something to collect in. Now the only way that that will work, the only way that that will cool down and condense is if I attach it to a cold water supply. So I've got some tubing here attached to a cold tap, and notice that I'm putting the cold water in at the bottom, and the water comes out at the top. So I'm popping those little attachments on. Notice how I'm supporting the glassware as I'm attaching really close, so supporting the glassware close to my hands as I'm attaching any tubing to that. And if I turn on the tap like so, nice and carefully, what you should see is that some cold water should, there you go, fill up the condenser, and that now is cold water circulating from the cold tap. It's not got to be running too fast, so it just needs a trickle really of cold water just to keep that cool. So now any vapours which hit this surface hit a cold surface and run downwards because of gravity. The final thing to notice then is that we need some way of collecting our distillate at the side here, and that will eventually be collected into this tube. So this tubing here, or this test tube here should I say, can just sit nice and carefully just like that, and it's ready to go.